Hey, welcome back to episode 10, my friends, where we're talking about change management and what you as a leader can do and how you can affect change really, really well within yourself as well as your organization. In our first segment, we really begin to talk about a few things to get you up and going fast, right? So we said, hey, listen, how do you get a quick ROI, return on investment for change? 3 things you got to think about: speed of adoption, ultimate utilization, and proficiency with your team. If you can get them to do all 3 of those things fast, you can begin to see huge value from the change. Now, in this segment, as we talk a little bit about the level, I want you to understand the change curve that you can expect to see. So if I had to kind of give you a picture to think about, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you're driving or you're listening, you got to visualize this. I want you to think about a graph. And on one axis, the vertical axis going up and down, vertical, we have performance, right? So understand, the higher up on this graph you go, the better your performance, right? On the vertical one. Now, on the horizontal axis at the bottom, you have time, right? So understand, the farther you go out on this bottom vertical axis, the more time it takes, right? So I want you to think about that. So if you're thinking about performance and time, those are 2 huge factors that are huge pieces of this thing called change, right? So as we get started, the first thing that you can expect to see is what we like to call the denial stage, Now, please understand, the denial stage starts at the very, very top of performance because people have been performing at their current level pretty well. But because of the change, please understand that their performance is starting to drop. It's starting to drop because you're putting new techniques in, new tactics, new things that you want them to do. So their performance is going down, and it's in this denial stage that you'll see people being very indifferent. People will have disbelief. Oh, I can't believe we're doing this, right? You'll see people going through the motions. You'll see people avoiding or trying to withdraw from the new process, right? What will you hear? As a leader, you're going to hear a lot of silence. Some people saying, well, it's okay, don't worry. They've done this stuff before. They won't stick with it. You'll hear a lot of the naysayers saying stuff like that, as well as people saying, well, I'm not worrying about this. It won't affect me, right? Now, please understand, it's in this stage as a leader, you have to really begin to stick to your principles and really use what I like to call the denial stage strategies. You have to, number 1, provide frequent feedback about the change, right? And you have to really do that in such a way to let people know what is changing and what's not changing, right? Now, here's why you have to do that, because number 2 in this strategy is you have to address rumors quickly. Because please understand, when we're left to ourselves, my friends, we roam with our brains and we begin to tell all kind of things because we are indifferent about the change. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so therefore, you have to really begin to address rumors really quickly, right? Now, if you could begin to do that, even in the process of starting this, you could begin to have small wins of success here. But please understand, it's in this process, my friends, that you're also going to see production start to decrease. Production will go down. I want you to think about it from the example I gave you earlier, from working out. The first week of working out, how do you feel? You feel like shit, let's be honest. You don't feel amazing, right? You're not like, yeah, man, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life, man. I feel great already. No, you are sore. You are tired. You are like, why am I doing this, right? And if you're not careful, most people quit because of that. Because instead of having this increase of energy, they've lost energy. They are tired. They don't feel good. They're like, hey, it was better for me to eat McDonald's. No offense to McDonald's, right? But, they felt better doing it the other way because of the change. So you have to understand, you have to push through this denial stage. Now, if you push through the denial stage, where do you go next? Well, understand, on that curve, you dip even farther down. You go from denial to resistance with yourself as well as most people. What does that look like? Well, it's in this stage that you really begin to get angry and hostile sometimes. Like, damn it, why are we doing this? The other way was better. It just worked more efficiently, right? You also begin to hear a lot of complaining and a lot of people pushing the envelope, trying to go back the other way, resisting. right? And it's in this stage that you'll hear, this is unfair. It doesn't make sense. I'm leaving. I'm quitting. Why are we doing this, right? So understand that this resistance phase is where you as a leader, you really have to be strong, my friends, because oftentimes this is where a lot of companies and organizations throw in the towel and turn away, right? Why? Well, here's why. Because people are very upset. People don't like the process that's going forward, as well as production is at an all-time low. Think about that. My team is upset. The change isn't working well right now. Production is at an all-time low, and we've been doing it for a little while now. So it's not like we just started this yesterday. So most leaders would look at this as a huge failure. When truth be told, this is just part of the growth process, my friend, such as working out, changing jobs, learning a new skill, learning to play an instrument, foreign language, same process. You're going to have the resistance. And so what do? What are some of the techniques, some of the skills that you can do to get through and push through this zone? Well, in the resistance zone, one thing you have to do is legitimize people's feelings. I know you think there's no feelings in construction. Hear me out, my friends. That's not true. You have to legitimize people's feelings. Now, what do I mean by that? Hey, you have to let them know, hey, listen, I can understand why you feel that way. But we still have to stick to the change and where we're going, right? So you can legitimize their feelings, but still be firm to stick where you're going, right? Now, it's also in this stage here that you have to really clarify the change, right? You have to really clarify the case for the change. No, here's why we're doing this. And this is where you as a leader have to do a great job of painting long-term vision of where we're going. Here's why we're doing this. Here's where we're going with it. Please understand, my friends, this works not only at work, but at home as well, with your family, with your kids, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, or spouse, painting that long-term vision, creating a strong case as to why you're staying with the change. In this stage here, you also want to give more information of why we're doing it, why we're sticking to it, as well as you want to establish firm expectations that you expect everyone to trust your leadership as well as the company and move forward with it. I'll say this, my friends, hands down, this will be your most challenging area for you because, as I said before, it's in this stage right here that you really begin to struggle with moving forward because you've been doing it for a while. People are tired. People are angry. They're frustrated. Production is down. Usually morale is down. And this is where the cream rises to the top. This is where you as a leader have to understand where you're going, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and really begin to dig deep, to dig into your vision here in this stage, right? Now, if you can push through, you can begin to get to that middle of the curve. It's still low, but understand, it's at this point, you've been consistent, you've legitimized feelings, you've clarified why we're doing it, painted a clear vision for the future, you've established clear goals that you expect people to stick with it, and it's at this stage that all of a sudden, people begin to really test it because they really begin to see that, hey, listen, our organization, the people that I'm working with, my leader on my team, they're sticking to their guns on this. So it looks like we're going to do this for real this time, right? So it's at this testing stage. Here's what you're going to see. If you can push through, it's almost like a light bulb goes off. Aha moments. And you'll begin to see, looking at my notes, you'll see people exploring with new options, trying it out. You'll see people taking risks, right? Actually doing it, going forward. At times, you'll see activity without focus, which can be dangerous a little time in construction. So it's in this stage, you really need to be thinking about safety. If you put a new policy in place, you put new tools out there, some type of thing, something of that nature, it's at this testing stage that most companies, most leaders see an increase in safety violations. So you as a leader, knowing the curve, knowing what you're up for, you can begin to act accordingly and do what I like to call audibles, so that you can really begin to master this and make sure it happens well. So what will you hear? What will you hear, right? Well, you'll hear enthusiasm from your team, finally. You're like, whoo, finally, right? You'll hear optimism. You'll hear people say, hey, let's try that. Or, hey, I got an idea. Maybe if we did this and this, we can get even better, right? So you'll get morale picking up. So what do you need to do in this testing stage? Well, a couple things. Number one, focus on short-term goals. You don't think about the long term right now. It's in the testing stage. You got to reel it back in because you're trying to get quick wins for your team. If you can begin to get quick wins for your team, similar to sports, momentum starts rolling, my friends. And when momentum starts rolling, you can begin to conquer the world with that, right? Now, what else do you need to do? Well, encourage people to focus and encourage them to try it even more, right? So encourage them to focus, encourage them to try it even more, encourage them to try new skills, to learn new skills around whatever the change is, right? And then last but not least, you really want to encourage their effort. If you see them struggling, encourage them. Encourage them. This is your time to be a phenomenal cheerleader for your team, right? Now, if you can begin to do that with the excitement and these aha moments that they have, also having an awareness that safety could be a real challenge, you can begin to do a phenomenal job of guiding your team to this start of the uptick with the change. Now, in our next segment, we're going to really dive into what that looks like, right? So I want you to think about this. We went through the denial starting out. Then we have resistance from people like, oh, hell no, to now, let me test it out, let me see. And now, as we talk about the next segment, we're going to talk about what comes next and what you have to do as a leader to keep the momentum going. But I'm going to hold that for our next segment, right? I'm going to leave you in the testing phase. And if you want to learn what you have to do to keep you from going back, you have to tune in to our next segment. So I look forward to seeing you in our next segment, The Foundation. Hey, I want to thank you again for tuning in to No Bullshit with Alex Willis, the #1 go-to source for leadership development in the construction industry, my friends. And don't forget to hit play on that next segment.